Me back there. And it's a 1934 car. I don't think it's a 1934. It's like new thing.
I think
Welcome to the Military Museum. They fought wars in Serbia. Oh. Yo, look at the gun, though. That's insane.
it's a flat gun. You have to knock inside it. Pour it up under. Like that. Take it.
Might be time on top of that.
About to go in.
Thank you.
What?
Where you guys doing for today?
Marina Valley.
Nice to have you.
Thank you.
Yes, feel free to look around, take pictures and videos. If you have a question or anything, feel free to ask. Other than that, enjoy your visit.
Thank
Okay,
you. Thank you.
Any relatives in service?
Yes,
Or
there
was?
now. Yeah, was, yes.
Yeah.
What?
Yes, have quite a few.
Original seats.
They're both favorite.
Or two.
Oh, yeah, we got like half of our collections from that era.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah, like, well, I guess if I was to break it down, I say maybe about 40% of it's World War II, maybe another 35, 40s around Vietnam era, and then the remaining percentage like a mixture of other periods: World War One, Spanish-American War, the Gulf War, both of them, 1 and 2.
Okay.
Hmm.
So a little mixture of here and there. Basically incorporates the last 130 years.
That's good. Look at them on boxes too.
Bro, these bombshells.
These ones, like the wooden shaped looking ones. So this is how the metal one here, what's the sign, is how originally were. These were training rounds. This was to get guys used to how heavy these rounds were, because originally they had to manually load them into the weapon systems.
Yeah.
So they made out of metal, but this was during World War II, and we needed every scrap of metal we could for the war effort. So they started making them out of wood instead.
Hmm. Wooden bullets. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Jones. Not that's
What?
And she was from Rialto. This is actually her old WAC uniform right up here. Well, that's her Class C, and then right next to it is her nurse gown. She was a nurse of the Army Air Corps, what we now call the Air Force.
You said
it was
Air Corps?
originally part of the Army until 47 when it became its own branch.
Hmm. That's fire. This is a grill right here. What's this?
Yeah, field kitchen. This one's a 1985 produced one, but these been around since as far as World War II era.
Hmm.
Pretty heavy suckers. Take a few guys to bring them down out of the truck. Though because of changing battle lines during World War II, some field kitchen units got so tired of taking them on and off the truck. Some of them turned the back flatbeds of the trucks into just the mobile kitchens. They just kept the machines on there, kept them running.
Hmm.
So it basically works no different from an oven like any other conventional
What?
kitchen. So whatever you can do with your oven, you can do on this. And it was originally powered by gasoline. Later, like late war variants like this would switch to propane before they were discontinued.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, this is fire. So what is this? Is this right here?
That's a modern water dispenser or
Yeah,
drink
I figured.
dispenser. They usually bring out of the field for training
Mm-hmm.
to fill your canteen. Or sometimes, I don't know if they do the practice anymore. They used to have something called Victory Juice or Victory Punch. Basically, it was a extra solidated Gatorade,
Wow.
which had a unique, if not somewhat hard palate taste.
Mm.
Basically, the idea was the extra sodium in it was part of the whole electrolytes to make it much more, to hydrate you a little bit more, give you more energy. But like I said, it had a kind of unique flavor compared to your traditional store-bought Gatorade.
It's a whole vest right
But
here.
usually it was mostly used for water at times to fill up your canteen or fuel pack.
Okay.
That's if they didn't have the giant. They have this giant water gallon container like that's truck driven. You would go to that and usually to fill up your Camelback, which is your
Okay.
water. You've probably seen it. What hikers use. It's that
Mm-hmm.
water bag you put in your
Okay.
back and it has like a straw.
Uh-huh.
They give that to most guys now. And then the canteen's like a emergency or secondary water source.
Okay.
Mm. This is fire. I don't lie.
Everything you see has been donated either by veterans themselves or family members who inherit it, and a few items from collectors.
Communicator. The boxes. This you talk on,
Was
dude.
he in as well?
Yes, he lives in San Diego now.
Yo, look at the knives, dude.
Was he a Marine
No, he was
Man, I feel bad for whoever.
Because I know both of them. Yeah, they both share a base there.
Structure
Similar to-
unit.
Well, not as much up in Oxnard.
First aid kit right here.
Base.
Great Britain, World War II.
Imagine that crowd was in the aircraft.
The medals. Not least the medals we won, I believe.
Was he in
It
during?
seemed he
What?
That's true. But some are more gargantuan than others, so it leaves an impression.
Now, I don't know nothing about war, but this shit cool to be around and see.
That's why I was wondering with the aircraft carriers. Because those things are basically like little floating cities.
Before she tests. But look at communicators.
I think the best case example if you ever see one, if you ever visit San Diego, is the USS Midway, which is a museum out there.
How you doing?
Well, I think they removed it. It was one of the first nuclear powered ships that was produced by the Navy. Yeah, they moved from boilers that use coal and gasoline to using nuclear fusion engines. So some of the ships do have on board. Basically, nuclear scientists, their job is just to make sure the thing functions properly and not have any issues.
Here's the war suits. These are suits they wore in the war.
Like things here or war trophies or soldiers brought back from nations we fought. So some of these Nazi items are part of that. We also have stuff from the Viet Cong, the Empire of Japan, the Italian Kingdom, basically, and of course stuff from Iraq, nations we fought for the last 100 years. Hello, welcome. Where you guys coming from today? Oh, from Russia.
What? Yo, look at the gun.
Oh, awesome.
I don't know.
It's an MP40.
It's an old school. I bet nice though.
Yeah, feel free to look around.
This the Nazi. This the Vietnam War right here.
What?
You see the Nazi symbol?
Vietnam? That's totally different.
What you mean? This is the Vietnam War.
Some mixture. Yeah, we have some Russians that will talk to us.
Japanese. See? You see this? Vietnam War.
That's
See,
some
I'm
of our
right.
modern ones, 'cause we
I
have
know what I'm talking
these
about
are
here.
from Asia,
Japan.
Asia.
That boy Adolf himself.
Look at the old canteen hosers. You got the old hats in here. Bro, I just saw the first ever first aid kit. It looked crazy.
Panzer in here.
It's a what?
Like the
So this was like actually worn in a war.
Yep, or at least by the servicemen themselves. These were Class C uniforms, so this was something they would have had more when they were not in combat. They were in service, but not in combat situations. So like going out of town type of thing.
Yeah.
Of course, these are the famous Ike jackets, which is iconic for the World War II generation uniform.
That's fire.
So this would feature the whole soldier's own career, from his unit to his how long he was in service, to even his ribbons and medals that tell basically his entire campaign story.
So all these from same war or the difference? Like
It's a
different,
mixture of World War II and Korea.
Oh, okay.
We combine the two because usually Korean War items, other than the heavy winter gear, are hard to differentiate from World War II equipment because the war was only 5 years apart from each other for World War II and Korea.
Yeah.
So they shared the same equipment, same uniform pieces. Like you said, the only thing that makes Korea separate is they, because of how much colder it was specialized winter gear that was not seen in World War II. Or at least we learned from our experiences because Our troops were sent more to a little bit warm weather areas, especially Europe at the start. But as 1944-45 into Europe came along, that's when our troops came across the European winter, and it was a little bit different. We became clear our troops were not geared appropriately for that weather. So that's when they started experimenting and issuing winter gear to kind of meet the accommodations.
Mm. This is fire.
I mean, I think we had right. This year is like a great example. This is a 1944 trench coat, which was issued to some of the early troops, especially during the Battle of Bastogne. That was the Battle of the Bulge. Now, it did keep you warm. It is effective. The problem, though, many soldiers had, though, was because they covered the leg area,
yeah.
especially with the banding in the back. It made movement very limited. So the strap could be
Pretty thick,
loosened
too.
to give a little bit of leg room, but it is pretty heavy on you. So it did feel like it was basically weighing you down a bit.
It is pretty thick, though.
But then again, when you're dealing with, like, let's say at the Battle of the Bulge, like almost negative 20-degree Fahrenheit weather,
You
you
need
want
it.
anything to keep warm.
Yeah, for sure. Most definitely. Oh, they got the war movies here, books.
That was a menu.
San Bernardino Army right here.
Yo, how much one of these would you try?
That's from the nearby, or that was from the nearby Norton Air Force Base. That's from the 1960s. It's the menu for the officers.
Oh, okay.
That's why the price is so different, because this is from almost 60 years ago now.
Yeah, you see,
So pre-inflation.
the Southern chicken was $1. Tea was 10 cents. Chocolate milk. All the beverages was like 10 cents. Yeah, inflation now. Everything going up.
Yeah, basically almost up to 300%, 300 to 400% more,
That's insane.
depending on what era we're talking.
Yeah. What is that?
Communication device.
Tank periscope. Oh, it's off the tank, so I guess you look through it. Yeah, like a radio. No, it's fire.
Yeah, look, that's not. Yes, you know.
The Pearl Harbor remembering.
Yeah, a lot of people died that day.
If you learned about that in school. Learned about that in school.
You ladies have any questions?
Look at
Is
the
that an old radio?
old pouches.
Is that an old radio?
Yeah, like a radio. Read it. Yeah, tank radio.
Oh. I never knew that they had
It's
radio.
the ammunition boxes, right?
Yeah.
Yes, man.
That's fire. What's this? Army Jeep.
Looks like a battery.
Oh, it's a Jeep battery. It was made so different. Like it had plenty of knobs on there. But it's the Navy section now. The U.S. Navy. Here's the models of the planes. Shut out this guy. I don't know who you is. Oh, it's a working clock. What? Look at that.
All I know is from little old booklets. Well,
Yo,
if
look
you
at
see me in the other room, I have an old booklet.
Navy
with
headset.
Americans to speak Russian when we met each other at gunfight.
Nah, this is fire, dude. Yo, what is this? What's this right here? Bomb?
No,
Like a bomb.
no. It's for cigarette butts.
Oh, what? That's fire.
That is the tail fins from a bomb.
Yeah.
But what they did was everybody was smoking cigarettes and stuff. And if you go in the house, in the building, they wanted you to put your ashes and cigarettes
In there.
in the ashtray.
That's fire. It's the U.S. Army helmets here. How much those weigh, you think?
What?
The helmets back then. You about to take me to a helmet.
Now there is that enclave of
Oh. I'd say about 30 pounds.
Is it metal?
from
Yeah, it's metal.
part of the country that
That's like how much you say, like 30, 25,
I said like 15, 20.
15, 20 pounds. It is pretty heavy. And it makes sense because, bro, bullets going to the dome. So you need it.
Depending on what caliber it is.
See
Oh,
that?
it's two of them.
Oh, that's the
Well,
outlander.
that's
Oh,
because you don't want your head hitting that.
Right.
So they put this inside of this. So now you got your helmet. And when you go,
and Navy and Airborne for Air Force.
you can use that, fill it with water, and you can shave, wash your face, whatever.
So it's the
and put it
cushioning
back
right here.
together. Yeah.
That's good.
See, down there's the desert camo.
Mm-hmm.
That's the old ones. That's the new ones.
These the new ones?
Yeah, the M3.
Okay.
The nice desert camo.
Kevlar.
What?
Check all the padding.
Nah, that's fire.
This one feels heavier.
So it go from older to the newer ones. Look at them shady still, bro. Bro, imagine getting cut on these.
Yeah, but the Japanese carry those big old katanas. Oh. They also carry like tantos.
Actual World War II swords, bro.
They have swords.
They're Japanese swords. They carry like on the hips. So you're around bullets, you just
Yep.
pop it.
I want to see the gun where with the knife on it.
Oh, like a bayonet.
Yo, what is this? This a radio station? Oh, it's a phone. Yo, it's a phone, dude.
Yeah, you wear it on your back.
Nah.
Yeah, that's where you can like call in air support.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or like a UAV or something. Yeah.
Huh?
This bazooka, bro.
Oh, damn, so many machetes.
Right here?
Right here.
That's just how it does.
It was a wooden one.
It's a bazooka.
Antey. It's not the real one. The real one would be bigger.
Bazooka, dude.
How the Antey aircraft both would be
The fighter jet masks.
designed to help shoot down kamikaze pilots from the Japanese who try to ram their.
Those World War I stuff.
Oh, they had Barbies back then. Had a Navy Barbie, an Air Force Barbie,
Was the 40
a
millimeter,
Marines
but some
Corps
soldiers called
Barbie.
it pom-pom.
Entrenching tool. If they dig trenches with. What is this? Another phone?
Yeah, that's one of the early field phones, the EE8.
Yeah.
We used to use landlines, and then this is the very first adopted wireless radio used by the U.S. military. This one was produced by Motorola, the company that would later make cell phones.
Oh, for real?
Yeah,
Yeah, they don't make them that big no more, huh?
they're a little bit more condensed. The reason for its massive size, because the whole bottom, which takes up most of the compartment,
That's a phone.
was
Yeah.
for radio, was for the battery. Because compared to today, like a battery that big is now like something this small now.
Yeah.
But back in the day, that was big enough to power the machine, but not enough because the problem with early radios in general is they need a large power source to boost its signal. But since the power source is concentrated and small, this could only get at most, I think, almost 8 to 10 miles reception, which is a good distance. But you want to make sure you want to be hopeful that someone's within that distance in order to receive your transmission.
That's fire.
But with the battery pack, it weighed about a good 35-40 pounds.
Yeah. You had to run around with all that too, so I could just imagine.
Plus additional gear that they wear, including their ammunition, essentials, water, everything.
So that means they had to be strong.
Well, that's what boot camp put them through. Yeah, usually for regular riflemen, your average weight most soldiers carry range from anywhere from 85 to 95 pounds,
Bro, running around with 80 pounds on you?
which is most of their body weight. Because I think the
That's a
average
great workout.
weight of a man in World War II was somewhere between the lines of either depending on your physique, 120 to 145 pounds. So
Oh, so
you're basically carrying more than half your body weight.
yeah. It makes sense. They were skinny then back then, 140.
Yeah, well, different diets, plus some of them less so and more stunted in growth because they were the children of the Great Depression.
Yeah.
So having a bad diet usually affects how you grow.
Yeah. That's fire.
And of course, our bazooka right up there.
Yeah, I seen that.
Yeah, it's a deactivated one, which I did a bad job in because the original wood grips were rotting away. I took wood shopping. I guess it showed I got barely a passing grade. And then the rocket on top is a replica of the 60 millimeter that would have been used to fire out of this, which covered up to 300 to 400 yards. It can puncture up to I think up to 4.5 to 5 inches of armor. So pretty good against most tanks at the time, but once we came across things like the Tiger and Panther, you had to hit a sweet spot or on the sides, because if you try to hit the front, those rockets would just bounce right off.
Yeah, in the back.
Pretty much. Yeah, the back would be the thinnest.
Soviet Union.
And that's when you get the anti-tank.
So yeah, what about this right here?
Yeah, that was before the Javelin. This was the Dragon, which was a wire-guided rocket launcher. This was used by our forces during the first Gulf War. But by the time of the second Gulf War in 2003-2004, these were mostly replaced by the Javelin system, which took its place, which had a much more simplified fire and forget. So there was no wire attachments. You just lock on, launch the rocket, and the rocket does the rest for you.
So this is what went in right here?
No, these are actually I think these are 110 or 120 millimeter rockets that would have been from the Huey helicopter in Vietnam. So like that little toy that's suspended up there, the little rocket pods next to it is what these rockets would be in.
Where?
That wouldn't fit up right here.
Oh, up here?
Yeah,
Oh,
like
okay,
on
okay.
Inside the little rocket pods, that's where
Yeah.
these rockets would fit in.
Oh, okay.
They were unguided, so they weren't accurate. But then again, when you're firing up to 60 to 32 of these at once, they're bound to hit something.
Something.
Plus, special ones would have had small incendiary napalm tips, which actually caused fire spread damage around the area.
Bro, it's my favorite.
But some were just regular ordnance.
The Pacific.
This one's actually one of the more unique.
It's my
rare,
favorite
or
one to learn about.
Mysterious items. Well, I say mysterious because of who the person's full history is. These are postcards that were found in a copy of that book over there, produced after World War One. This man was most likely the original owner of this book, and his postcards here are signed in the back from around 1919, around that time. This man we don't know too much about. He was most likely either a member of the 92nd or 93rd Infantry Division, which were the only all-black divisions of the time. 92nd is what most people know famously as the Buffalo Soldiers, who've been around since the days of the Wild West as a cavalry unit. And then the others was the 93rd, which is the Blue Helmets. This division earned its nickname because due to segregation at the time, black units were separated from others. However, in the French military, which were used to having a mixture of soldiers because they had a colonial empire that stretched from Asia to Africa, so they were used to having soldiers from other nations. They were desperate for people because, well, they were suffering heavy losses from almost 4 years of throwing everyone over the trenches. Plus, they were suffering mutiny because after those 4 years of doing that, some troops just were starting to refuse to continue the fight. They learned that the Americans had this division arriving, but due to their nature being segregated, France was willing to borrow them because they were just desperate for anyone. So these were American troops, but they ended up serving for a short time under French command. And because of that structure change, they were equipped with French uniforms, including the blue Adrian helmet. So that's how they got the nickname Blue Helmets. And of course, the most famous of these units was the 15th New York National Guard, or the Harlem National Guard, which became members of the Harlem Hellfighters, their nickname came mostly from the Germans who first encountered them during World War One. Like I say, he could have been a member of any of these said units, but without any other details other than these photos, we can only guess.
Right.
But we know that he was a member of the armed forces during this period. And like I said, the book too that it was found in is a very rare find. This book is really hard to find a copy of. The author, Emmett J. Scott, he was a sociologist and historian of mixed race. I think his father was white, mother was black, could have been vice versa. But he wrote extensively about the African American community during this time, and this was a book he seemed to waste no time because this book came out just 1 year after the war was over. So he must have probably just been hitting the books right the moment the war was over to get every detail about the exploits of the 92nd, 93rd in the fights because they were one of the first units to reach the Rhine River, which is the border between France and Germany before Germany surrendered. So it's one of those unique pieces with personality and because the thing that I like about items like these and some others
Tank weapon.
is everything is basically standard issue gear. Anyone can have it, but things like this have a sense of individuality of a person, an actual individual who was in uniform, who actually experienced what he did during these periods.
So
That's why I find a little bit of human connection. It's not just another nameless person, it's an individual like you and me. Yeah, I can bring the book a little closer. It's old, but it's not like sensitive.
That's pretty awesome.
That's fire.
Yeah, it's a very, like I said, very detailed, beautiful book. Especially, like I said, all the elements of this time period or what he was able to gather for this time.
Yeah, original photos in there too.
Yeah, like I said, I kind of been picking at it here and there, read through it. But there's just so much information to process. It's just hard to. You have to been probably sitting down reading this thing extensively.
That's just cool. I have come over here yet with the bags.
It's supposed to be just
Oh, it's a parachute.
representation
It's a
of
parachute, dude.
in general, so anyone. This was for the prisoner of war missing in action memorial. So the statue is a
Purple heart.
creation of one of the known torture
Look at the
methods
currency though.
that
Vietnam currency,
to
dude.
capture a Viet Cong, who unfortunately
It's the old Vietnam currency right here.
Even though the answer to the
$1,000 bill, dude.
expressed loyalty to, they were a guerrilla group, so they felt no obligation to Geneva Conventions and other guidelines of warfare. And since they saw the Americans like the French,
It's insane.
And Dakota had Desmond Dawson there.
they didn't treat them with much
That
hospitality.
was right.
So torture is
It's the Marines right here.
That's definitely Hitler.
numerous accounted methods.
Look at the meals.
Of course, there was a whole
You know what MRE means?
Nah, educate me.
Meal ready to eat.
Alright.
Huh?
Alright.
It's literally right there.
I know.
Wow, look at this gas mask.
I seen.
I know what you're saying.
It's a meal ready to eat.
Well, originally the museum didn't talk about that as much, but I think as American and Vietnamese relationships have improved over the last 20 years, it's become a changing attitude about addressing past grievances between both parties.
Bro, I know how to get nervous.
It's like the same way how now we're kind of acknowledging Agent Orange and the long-term consequences. They're over there.
These are original boots, dude.
It's not, I'm gonna buy it though. I couldn't make it. So I couldn't.
Original boots. It's insane.
Well, when you get close enough before rifles, sometimes you just throw
Minuteman.
off the blade and that's it. You just hack the person. Heck, in World War I, which was the first water war where machine
Douglas MacArthur.
everywhere.
It's like original photos. Yo, look at this. Bro, the knives they had, bro, in the war, Japanese soldiers. Them boys going crazy. Look at this sword. Japanese officer katana.
Where your relative is, there's a thing called the trench knife, which is a brass.
I don't know if that's blood engraved on there.
Definitely
Like
designed
the
for
blood from the war on there. But this shit is crazy.
And then you got different nations doing all course, like even reintroducing medieval weapons. Like some soldiers start crafting maces, some iron gauntlets with spikes coming out of it. It was pretty. It was becoming
1994.
quickly barbaric, going back to old-fashioned warfare. When
If you think about it, bro, that's really not that long ago.
yeah, like I said, you just see all sorts of wacky and deadly looking innovations some soldiers start crafting in the trenches.
The Gulf War suits. There's like so many wars.
Yeah, that one's a 81mm mortar from Vietnam.
Oh, this right here?
Yeah,
Vietnam mortar?
and it's basically a small artillery gun in a sense.
Yeah. Look at the bombs they stuff.
Yeah, those ones are practice dummies, but they are practically the same size as the real ones.
How much will those weigh back then?
The mortar rounds themselves or the whole system here?
The rounds itself.
Rounds? barely around 5 to 8 pounds, not
Okay,
that heavy.
not
The
that
whole
heavy.
system here, though, maybe a good 135.
For
And
real?
I think it's like, if I remember, 35 pounds or 45 for the base plate, another 30 to 35 for the tube, and the rest being the stand because,
They had to build it, huh?
yeah, because it came apart in 3 pieces, so
Mm.
the crew for these types had to carry the parts and then once in position, assemble it.
Yeah. So they had to move fast in a sense.
It says the tube's 28, the mount's 40.
Oh, they got them on here?
Oh yeah, little details. Yeah, so being a motor crewman this time was no fun deal, especially
fun.
since you were usually given, well, at least they had M16s at the time. Like in World War II, since they were carrying something heavy, they weren't given a Garand like other troops. They were given something smaller, usually a sidearm like a pistol, or even the carbine. They had one carbine, which was a good weapon. It's just its caliber was not considered bigger and powerful compared to the 30-06 of the Garand and Springfield.
That's fire.
Yeah, some, if they were lucky enough, would get their hands on a 45 weapon, like a grease gun or a Thompson.
Yeah.
Mm.
Or
You
like
have
a bar.
you have those here?
I have replicas in the other room, you'll see.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because getting an original in California is expensive and near impossible. We do have 2 machine guns, like originals, next door, but they're both deactivated. One's a 30 cal water cool, the other one's a French Hotchkiss Sportative, or a French machine gun.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Honestly, what I was mentioning about the 94th Division, it would be something, a weapon they would probably been equipped with.
Mm.
I want to see a bar.
Yeah, we do have a bar next door, but it's a replica. I seen a real bar though once in person from a friend who owns one in the next state over. Beautiful weapon, clunky though, heavy as hell.
It's pretty big.
Its fire rate almost hard to control. But then again, when it's full auto 30-06, what to expect? Basically a full auto Garand.
Look at that one. Look at that one with the looses.
This is crazy.
SCG is a really beautiful weapon. I can see why so many people praise it. It was ahead of its time.
It looked kind of like modern, even though it was World War II.
Yeah, it was stamped steel, which reduced production costs and time. Also, it was just the first class of its own to introduce intermediate rounds, like bigger than pistol, smaller than rifle, basically the definition of assault rifle. In fact, which is a state of controversy, Mikhail Kalashnikov, the guy who created the AK-47, was believed to have drawn inspirations for his weapon based on the STG.
Yeah, it looks exactly like it.
Yeah, of
Like,
course,
totally different.
he denies it, but he was in the Russian military, which dealt with, in a branch that dealt with experimenting and studying captured weapons. So it's most likely he probably came across a model or two.
Yeah.
But it's real good.
It looks pretty small.
Wow, look at over
Definitely
here.
got that back in somewhere.
This is crazy.
I think the only closest place to fire like an actual one is if you go to Vegas right now. Because Vegas has a place called Battlefield. It's a place called Tech or Battlefield, LA, or a lot LB.
Pearl Harbor, more Pearl Harbor stuff.
Every known weapon.
These are original photos.
And I think for $60 you can fire 2 clips of STG for it.
Original photos from Pearl Harbor.
They also have other things like PPS for one. They have a bar there, Thompson, Boulder Classics. Yeah, they have a PPS 41, both the 30 round stick and the 81 round drum.
What about the
I don't know if they have that. That's like extremely rare. I have a replica model of the Type 100 next door. But yeah, I think as far as I know, I think we only know 6,000 are known to exist right now. Out of 10,000 that were made, 4,000 were considered lost on shipping that were destroyed by us.
I want to own one.
I think I saw on auction once a Type 100 44 variant.
How you gonna find the ammunition for it?
You could, but it'd be expensive because it's going to go through specialty shops because the Nambu 8mm Nambu has not been in production since 1945.
Yeah, so like,
I mean, there are some gun manufacturers or ammo plants that still make special bullets for collector shooters, but they're more expensive than like the regular rounds you can find like 30-06 more common rounds.
I mean, like, even just owning the gun would be cool.
Yeah, I think like I said, I saw one for auction with including the original bayonet and everything for 25 G's.
Pricey.
Yeah, well,
That's a,
you don't get to be called one of the rarest submachine guns and have a cheap price tag.
I would spend the money for it. It's a really cool gun.
One of the things I have, because I have seen, I have a friend who works in a armament museum. They have one for when he showed me video. I think thanks to how small the 8mm, even a fallout was very controllable.
Yeah.
However, it does not have a lot of velocity, so it doesn't have the same packing power.
It's a nice like close and mid range weapon.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't really travel that far.
Yeah, it's nothing in comparison to like the Thompson's 45 that can just shred through the vegetation.
Yeah, and the drum mag.
Yeah, not too. The drum mags were issued during World War II at the start. A lot of them were discontinued because two main common problems were coming up with GIs. One was that it took too long to load. Yeah, the second was that as it was rattling, there were chances where the rattling would cause the feeding to get misaligned, so it would cause jams. That's why a lot of them prefer the stick magazines.
What did you say?
Are you good?
That's the Bundeswehr, or the German military.
I haven't been over here yet.
Well, this was when it was still west and east. Now that's how the whole German military is like now. These are regional patches.
Oh, I
So
have.
this is for unit station near Berlin. This is for Hanover. I think this is around the Hamburg area. I could be wrong. I just know the other one. So it's a different, like, where they're stationed within the country of Germany.
It's a original share or it's been here?
Yeah, it's an original from the Norton Air Force Base before it was shut down in '93.
Mm.
A few of their items had trickled here, but most of them are over at the Norton Air Force Museum, near where the old base is. Now it's called the San Bernardino International Airport,
Oh yeah.
which took so many years to put together considering the last person in charge of the project was found guilty of using it for, let's say, illicit smuggling.
I'm gonna have to talk to him.
Salute to the veterans.
We only see half of what we got.
Yeah, we're running out of time, man. Sorry.
It's fine. Hey, any weekend, Saturday, Sunday, 10 to 5, come on back and we'll show you the other half.
Okay.
Oh, perfect. Oh, there's another half. Okay.
Yeah.
We'll have to come back for sure.
Sure
Thank
thing.
You so
Yeah,
much.
it's
Thank you. Have a good day.
Yep.
across the street, across the river, I think.
You guys ready to see the other half?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Vietnam currency.
We want to go to the other side.
Other side.
I saw you right here.
That's a whole different side.
Yeah, right through there where it says number 2. Yeah, we had so much stuff running, we had to make use of the second building. Plus, because of the door here, we have another unique item in here.
Oh.
It smells so good in here.
Yeah, look at it.
And this is a Korean War Jeep from 1953. Still works.
Oh, for real?
Yeah, Jeeps are kind of like AKs of wheels. They really don't take a lot of maintenance, and you can just put them through hell and back, and they'll still be reliable.
I think I'm gonna get me a Jeep.
Yeah, you spot our little babies there. Yeah, that's a replica of the Type 100.
Yeah, you see it. That's why
This one, it's sort of the same style. It's the Type 100.
Look at this.
Japanese Burnett, I like to call it.
The original Jeep.
For the Lewis gun, yeah, and then the Bren they brought and replaced it. Both the Type 96 and the Bren were copies of the Czech ZB-26, so that's why they look like that. And then the Thompson, then yeah, like I said, here's the Type 100. This is a replica though.
Yeah, it's still nice.
Put the bite on here. Hefty little weapon, about good 9 pounds. Right?
Yeah,
Yeah, a little handle right here.
it's nice. Yeah, it's pretty heavy.
Yeah. That was one of the issues about the weapon is, well, thinking that certainly counter because of the weak 8mm made it basically weigh itself down, so you weren't really suffering any recoil whatsoever.
Yeah, it was accurate. You can have anything.
Yeah.
And then you have your, it's not the first Gatling gun, like for the mounted on Jeeps, right?
Yeah, for the earlier, this is the water-cooled 30 cal before they end up, which is like on our mock-up on our
Yeah.
Jeep, the air-cooled 19A4.
Yeah,
So this isn't original, it's just been deactivated, so it doesn't shoot bullets anymore.
Oh, oh.
it's still cool.
Yeah, it's bore been filled and then the
Oh, yeah.
firing pin's been
Oh
removed.
yeah, this is the bar.
Yeah, this is the World War II variant, and then this is a mock-up of the Korean War variant, which introduced a few features. The most notably is the handle grip on the barrel,
Yep.
because the original ones didn't have that, and soldiers were complaining about how they would like to carry it a little bit more easily like a machine gun, so that was introduced.
Yeah, most of them just stick them right here like that. Can't really like aim down the sides.
You could, it's just, if you would have to definitely fire in burst with this type of weapon.
You just fall out of them like into the sky.
Yeah. That's why they usually recommend to fire with the bipod laying on prone or on a surface
Yeah.
to at least manage the recoil.
You got the grease gun.
Yep, M3 grease gun, Thompson M16A1. And this was the Hotchkiss Portato.
It's a women area.
machine as well. It's also a real one, but it's been deactivated.
Do they have incendiary rounds? Incendiary, like for the shotguns.
Some nations did do that, though it wasn't a widespread practice, but it was a known kind of like battle modification. So no military early on did make their own. It was something troops did in the field. They usually opened the top, mixing, trying to remember a type of chemical powder component to kind of give it that flare type reaction. And then sometimes you get really crude mock-ups like people just, especially more like insurgency groups would make, especially with incendiary rounds.
Yeah.
Usually those are tipped with a little bit of, I think it was potassium nitrate, I could be wrong. But that's what helped create tracers, but someone just dipped the whole thing to give it the whole bullet tip that flare.
They did that real widespread fire.
Yeah. Though the Viet Cong were more really dirty in what they did. One of their practices at times, well, not just them, but other nations, but they were known for our troops, was they would sometimes let the bullets tips rest in feces, so it'd be covered in bacteria. So when it wounds a person,
Yeah, it's like a natural poison. Nature's poison.
yeah. Though it wasn't really effective in practice because the heat, the extreme heat from the bullet
just kills
would
it.
kill it.
Yeah.
So that's when they start doing it. Like they would start covering bamboo tips or bamboo traps in feces instead. So if you get punctured by stabbing it, you get infected by the bacteria on it.
Yeah, fighting in the Pacific was bad.
Yeah.
Like
Yes.
the Japanese were like hiding like burrows in the ground, and they have like these bamboo spikes and stuff. They be in trees.
Yeah, they really threw everything they could at the enemy. They didn't really
The
have,
women's
to
area.
them, they were the definition of the ends justifies the means.
Yeah, Pacific War.
Of course, that's why Americans didn't bother taking any prisoners, because the few times they supposed to surrender, they ended up just faking it. Yeah, to kill themselves or attack them. So it's very, well, the Marine Corps didn't take prisoners, the armies actually did, but the Marine Corps being the one that fought them the most, just got used to the fact
Leather
that
boots.
no Japanese were gonna surrender, so it was just doom and mercy, just get rid of every single one of them.
But then we had the Navajo people that they knew our.
Oh, the code talkers?
Yeah, they was just like language.
It's crazy, dude.
I think the one group that came a little late to learn that lesson, learned unfortunately the hard way, but they quickly learned, were the Montford Marines who landed in both Iwo Jima and Okinawa later on.
Yep.
Because they were they were the last to be trained, so they didn't get the memo until they meet other Marines that kind of learned quickly how the Japanese fought.
Yeah, it just felt crazy.
More fanatical, but then again, they were really believing their cause. Yeah, that up there is World War I uniform, similar to like the one in that guy's uniform, that picture.
This one here?
Yeah. And then what he was wearing that picture is the old campaign cap, this one. Because when our boys first arrived in Europe, we didn't get the memos that helmets were back into fashion again. Because no one wore, before World War I, no one wore any armor in almost 300-400 years.
Wow.
Because during the medieval eras, when the first gunpowder weapons were introduced, it became pretty clear that wearing full body armor was pointless. So the armor was just ditched entirely. And then World War I saw helmets being protective against shrapnel from artillery.
Right.
So when we arrived there, all our troops were wearing this, and the officers were wearing those. And then when we arrived there, we were stuck to choose a helmet to adopt from our allies. So some units did get the Adrian Blue, not just the 94th by themselves, but most units ended up being stuck with the 1917, which was a copy of the British helmet.
There's not many of us riding horses anymore.
Yeah, definitely not. Though the last cavalry charge by the U.S. was actually in the Philippines when the Japanese invaded.
And this is D-Day, right?
That's the thing I always wondered this photo, if this is D-Day or probably even Operation Husky. I can't tell, but I'm thinking based on the uniform composition, it has to have been probably D-Day.
I forgot where they boarded on D-Day. Somewhere in
Yeah, on the English Channel, these were
Yeah.
the Higgins boats that they were on.
I forgot what it was called. Like the place they landed, they touched down on.
Oh yeah, it was on Omaha, Utah beach.
Yeah, there you
Because there
go.
was 5 beaches. We were given the task of taking those 2.
Yeah, because the French and the United, it was like the flank was like pushing from that side. They pushed from this side.
Basically, yeah.
Like we hit them in the middle.
Because we land on the coastline, supposed to spread out and then converge on Caney. I think it's the name of the town, or Con.
I say we definitely got the short end of the deal. Because it was pretty much like a losing battle. That's why they're bored by water. And they already had like the dugouts, the fortress, barbed wire. It was so bad.
Well, it would have, Omaha, Utah were the bloodiest. It would have worked. So this was the thing with Germany is they had those whole fortifications, but in their mind, they thought it was intimidating looking that we wouldn't bother to try to strike there. So because of that, they put units guarding the border that were usually the more ill-equipped, ill-trained ones, because they didn't think like, well, why do we need our best there if they're not going to throw? What happened in Omaha and Utah, though, was normally it would have been guarded by these more inexperienced soldiers. But what happened was overnight, without our intelligence knowing, they were replaced by members of the 369th Panzer Grenadier who just came back fresh from Russia through the worst of the fighting. So these were battle-hardened and trained units who've seen the worst of it. So when our boys landed, they weren't like the other beaches that were dealing with lighter resistance. We were dealing with actual battle experience defenders who were willing to die to the last man and let our soldiers reach the beach.
I would have just bombed all of it.
Well, that's what we tried, is stomping them up. But like I said, some of the fortifications were well built.
I mean, it was probably better if we did like secure for ourselves.
The book has
Like
my
that side of the
name on
border.
it, Sarah.
I'm famous, man.
I'm famous. The book, Sarah.
It's another phone.
Yeah, short for the Saratoga. That was the old aircraft carrier that we had during World War II.
My movements.
It's another phone, right?
That's the switchboard. So for the field phones over there, like those wire ones, this is where they would all connect back to. This was the central brain.
Oh,
You could
okay.
sense. So every time a phone line came, they would answer and then connect that call to whoever they were trying to reach to.
Oh, no, okay.
That's why you had specialized technical people who knew how to operate these to keep everyone connected. Usually, this was a more smaller version, because if you've seen like old films, you would see these huge, like wall-to-wall ones where a lot of young ladies would be operating. Because that was the old way of, like I said, phone line connection before everything became automatic with technology. Just shows how far we've come since then. And you probably saw that new room we had at the women's service. Yeah, we had these uniforms, we just made use of the extra room to kind of make it a center point where we can put all the uniforms. Right.
That's cool.
Other than that, any questions on anything else so far?
No,
Yeah.
you're just looking. I'm amazed by everything.
That's Russian. Came out of Afghanistan. Yeah.
It's a compass right here?
It's part of, one of them would be a compass on a ship, so this would have been surrounding the pilot of the ship. There would be 4 of these, one of them would have a compass. This one lets him know for controlling the steering of the ship, so as he's turning the wheel, if he's giving directions, he's steering it, and the rudder which he's controlling will try to match up. It's kind of like an early computer.
Oh, okay, that's fire.
So usually it's a system check as well, because if let's say they know they got hit by torpedoes, one of the usual instructing things they do is to turn the wheel to check the rudder, because the last thing they want to see is the rudder being like not moving at all,
Right.
because that means the torpedo hits it, and wherever the rudder was last put before it got hit means it's stuck there. So last thing you want to see this on is like if it's one of the extreme directions, because that means the ship's just going to go around in circles.
Right.
Because that's what happened to the Bismarck, the biggest battleship the Germans had during World War II.
Okay.
One of the Swordfish's torpedoes hit the rudder, and it forced the ship to basically go somewhat in a circle, so it became an easy target for the other planes to come in and just start hitting it.
That's fire.
Oh yeah, the German stick grenade.
You unscrew the bottom and you pull the little.
Yep, this replica does that too.
Yeah, see, you pour the little thing and then that's pretty much its live. Then you just throw it.
And this is on him because the Germans originally trained the Chinese military, so they gave a bunch of these to them. Before, of course, they became allies with Japan instead. Yeah, our troops gave it the nickname Potato Smasher. Yeah, they call it that because if you ever seen one like a kitchen tool, it looks like that potato
A
smasher.
huge camera, bro.
Yeah, troops gave kind of a bunch of nicknames to items based on what it looked like.
What's a camera? What is this right here?
Do you know anything?
Technically, you could without the fuse in it, because before you throw, you actually have to unscrew the top, put a fuse in it, and then close it back in. Without it, it would make a little bit of a blunt object.
To that.
Do you know anything about that Triple J?
Yeah.
The male group?
I wanted.
All female
Is
group?
this what they used to
I heard about
document?
that, though I'm more
They're like a
favor of the
camera.
triple nickels. Yeah, they were the only all black, well, at the World War II, all black trained paratroopers. They were originally supposed to be sent to Europe, but then their mission was changed for undercover mission in a sense. Basically, the Japanese were saying these balloon bombs, these bombs being, they set off in Japan, they would fly using the currents, and then land randomly in the US. The plan was hopefully they would hit factories. They more so started forest fires all throughout Oregon and California. The Triple Nickels mission then was to basically become air paratrooper firefighters because the government did not want the public to know these bombs were going off in the country, or else they knew panic would riot in the streets. So they sent these Triple Nickel paratroopers to drop into these forest fires, these raging fires, and put them out. And they did successfully at the cost of so far only one casualty throughout the whole endeavor.
That's not bad.
Yeah. However, the Triple Nickels would actually see combat in the next war. By Korea, they would be part of the 101st Airborne. And despite it being at that time integrated, because some of the original members stuck around for so long, they were the only few units by Korea that were still largely just all black. But they saw more action in Korea and proved themselves despite it being their first combat mission. But they're a story I feel like that I would like to see brought to life at once, because it feels like a completely overlooked story. Yeah.
Are you explaining this right here? Look like a huge.
But yeah,
camera.
I am aware of that because I know Netflix did a thing. But I think the book written by, I think it's Esley, I'm trying to remember the author, is a lot more better, and it fleshes out a lot of points that were, because with movies and TV you can only tell so much in a 30-minute or half or hour film. The book can usually tell more. This here is a Model 40 reconnaissance camera. This was produced and developed by Canon, the same camera company you see nowadays.
Oh, wow.
This was equipped onto aircraft. Luckily, the poor sap didn't have to hold this thing when he's using it because it weighs about a good 90 pounds. This would be installed onto the aircraft, and as they're flying over enemy positions, he would take pictures, and this was early intelligence gathering. So this would let them know details about landscape, what defenses in their area, and even if they're lucky, like spot anything like enemy armor, know how many tanks are in the area.
Or like ships.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now we can do the same thing with satellites and drones in live feed, live
Yeah.
information given back to the computer screen. But it just shows how long we come in intelligence gathering.
Different
And the
business.
risk these guys took to fly over enemy positions to take pictures.
It's kind of the same model as the Canons now. Kind of like,
They got shot down.
Luckily, most were not shot at because most enemy anti-aircraft positions, well, Japanese had a different mentality, but like the Germans and Italians, so long as the plane was not known to strafe or drop bombs, it was not seen as a target, so they basically ignored it most of the time.
I would
That-
have shot any enemy aircraft.
Yeah, that did change though after the Battle of Bastogne, because you had one crazed school teacher who became a pilot for these, who got tired of just sitting around doing nothing, decided to, out of nowhere, equip 3 bazookas on each of his wings and started attacking enemy armored columns. After that, no German wanted to take a chance of what was considered a non-action aircraft as a possible threat, and start shooting at anything now. He got in trouble for doing that, but at the same time, when he confirmed, he took down, I think, armored column, which consisted of 3 half-tracks and 2 Panther tanks. There was not much they could complain to him about. Yeah. Well, that's just like brothers in terms of brothers in arms. Yeah, it's a good book. It's also about Bradley Patton and Eisenhower, who they got along with each other, but there was a sense of rivalry between them. Well, of course, Patton's rivalry was far in comparison to these two compared to his with Montgomery, Britain's general. They really were like neck to neck racing at who can get the most accomplished at times. And that usually dictated a lot of their actions at times.
Oh, that's nice.
Though Patton himself always considered Montgomery still worthy, you could say like a rival to him. He didn't agree with a lot of his decisions, but he was willing to work with him because they were allies. But then again, Patton was known to have a fiery temper, and very few people he liked.
Tanks, bro.
In fact, there's a movie they're making about one unit of his, the 761st Tank Destroyers, known as the Black Panthers, which I'm looking forward to seeing.
It's coming out. It's coming out.
It's in from what I've last heard, it's been in, like they say it's in production. I think they're finally starting on filming.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, but it's one of the few, like I said, armored units of their kind, and of course, Patton was one of those. He was considered one of the best generals of the time, and if he wanted, because of that title he got, if he wanted a certain unit under his command, he definitely made sure to lobby to get it under his command. So, like the 1st Infantry Division was considered the best of the U.S. Army at the time, fought under the 3rd Army, which was him, and of course the 761st. He heard of this reputation, so he definitely was like, I want those men. And of course, there was some confliction because
That's an IV thing.
he was of that older class that had questions about race and their ability to combat, but at the same time, he was willing to throw his chances at anything to guarantee success in the front line. And they were the ones that helped break the Battle of Bastogne, like one of the few units, the tank units, that helped break the German circlement and get the 101st and 82nd out from their being surrounded by the Germans during the Battle of the Bulge. Their slogan was "Come out fighting," which was they supposedly on record usually echoed before they went out.
For real. Let me see this.
I said having
Surgical
a
kit.
story told because few units that get as much attention.
Oh, this is like a make it.
Like that movie Hacksaw Ridge.
Just saw the
I like not just
original
the,
medkit box I
The
showed.
conscientious objector himself, because the 45th Infantry Division, which he's part of, don't get as much attention. They were soldiers that were considered too old, like a lot of them were in their 30s and 40s, which were because most guys were in their 18, 22. So they were called the old men. They weren't expected to be as, as reliable compared to the younger guys, but they proved themselves to be one of the most battle-hardened units. Yeah. So that's why I like soldiers like this don't get a lot of attention at the start.
I'll put it up there so I'll remember.
But I'm not sure if there's an equal between
I gotta get me a Jeep, but he said it still work. That's all I needed to know. But pretty much done though. So this is not a part of history right here. This
I guess to the building, it's an old swamp cooler from the 60s, 70s. We're just trying to figure out who can help us take it down, get it off our hands, because if we try to detach it, that thing's probably a good 100 pounds or so. It's gonna just come crashing down.
right.
I mean, it kind of fits the
Theme
Yeah.
in here.
Unfortunately, it just doesn't work. It hasn't worked in a while, so that's why. Yeah, that's why we're trying to see if maybe someone would be willing to,
Take it.
with safety, take it down and then take it out here. That way we can probably put something in the corners here instead. It technically could be. I mean, it could serve as a heater, but they call it swamp cooler because that was the old school ACs.
Alrighty.
Well, thank you very much.
No problem.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, we went over there. We had the park right there.
The only thing left to check out is San Bernie's not too touristy. Because they're right across the street who run the Retro Arcade. They're open today as well.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yes.
What's your name?
Oh, Ezra. Ezra Cabral.
Okay. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Hey,
My
nice
name
to meet
Alan.
you too. Nice to meet you, Alan. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you, Tiffany.
Have a good one.
You as well. You will have a nice rest of your weekend. Oh.
That was fire.
right next to each other. They're
Right.
owned by the same company. So the people that own Amplio Local
Yeah.
own them. Both
Or
of them.
both of them? That's fire. Well, it's an arcade museum across the street. Yeah, you can. Oh, that was the end of the military museum. Catch y'all next vid.